Welcome to For the Sake of Heaviness. My name is Butch. As always, I am here with
Merciful Mike.
Merciful Mike Smith. Tonight,
What is tonight, Butch? What are we doing tonight?
tonight, tonight is tonight.
Tonight.
Tonight,
Tonight's the
we're
night.
going to talk about. Mike and I were talking about this. We talk about stuff all the time, obviously,
We
but
talk. We do talk once
um,
in a while. Once in a while we talk.
we we're doing an episode about bands that are from the area where we grew up, that we loved, that should have been. We figured we're going to be big, should have gotten signed,
Yeah.
or should have been bigger if they did get signed. So we're each going to take a couple bands from those areas and talk about them tonight because, as you all know, there's tons of bands. For every band that's great that makes it, there's a zillion that don't, and then there's a zillion more that just never even get beyond their hometown for
Yeah.
some reason. And there's a ton that should. And I got a couple, and I know Mike's got a couple. So
Definitely. Yeah. We thought it would be fun to kind of shine the light on, some of our local legends from our respective areas. And like we've said before, and I know I've said before, I've always been fascinated by, local band scenes in different areas and how they differ from, one city to the next across the country. So this should be kind of fun. And I'll stay it right now just so I don't forget. At the end of this, if you've got a cool band that, you thought would have gone places, make sure you put it in the comments. And I know Butch and I would be pretty, pretty quick to check those out.
yeah, like if there's links out there to like
Yeah.
YouTube or music and stuff, please leave it because
Yep.
we're always looking for stuff to listen to, whether it's new bands or new to us
Yep.
bands. Like I know the bands that I grew up around in the valley that maybe no one else, Lehigh Valley, that maybe no one else ever heard of. So I can imagine like all of you, like there's bands that you know that we haven't heard of that we'd probably love. So
Yeah. Definitely.
I'll link away.
Links. We like those. We'll put the
Yeah,
links for our
sausage
bands in there too.
links, video links.
Video links of sausage links. Yeah, yeah.
There you have it.
All right, Butch, let's talk about your neck of the woods first, and we can bounce back and forth.
All right. I grew up uh, in the Lehigh Valley area in eastern Pennsylvania. Probably prime music years for me were obviously from like, I think I really started getting into music around 81 or 82. So when I was like 11, 10, 11. And then I left the Lehigh Valley, and for all intent and purposes, I left in 1990. I came out to Pittsburgh in 1989, but I did go home between my freshman and sophomore year. So, but 90 was the last time I actually lived in Lehigh Valley. There was a really cool scene there, I thought. I mean, I was, being a teenager and not one with a fake ID, I wasn't privy to the club scene, so I didn't get to go see, the bands in the area that were playing in the bars and things like that. So my experience of the music scene was relegated to the as far as seeing local bands. The Airport Music Hall was a club, but it was all ages. It was an old like bingo hall or expo mart kind of hall that they used as that they turned into a concert venue, and so you'd have bands like that were on the on the rise or not big enough to play like an arena or anything like that. We had bands like when they were coming up. I didn't see all these bands, but the bands that played there were UFO. UFO played there around the Misdemeanor tour. Anthrax was there when they were coming up. Testament, Overkill, TT Quick, White Lion when Pride was getting big. Winger when the first album was good. Guns N' Roses famously played there. They did that string of dates leading, around that Ritz show that they
Hmm.
taped for MTV. That same week I saw them there. It was
Yeah.
like them and EZO, Sabotage, Zebra. Skid Row was there opening for Skid Row opened for I want to say Skid Row opened for White Lion.
Hmm.
I think they were on that bill. But like Hades played there, opening for Overkill. Um, the Ramones played there. The
No
Black
kidding.
Crowes played
Wow.
there. Bad English played there. Ingve, Malmsteen. So a ton of bands. Fates Warning. So that's like the level of bands at
Sure.
that time. Like I don't know. I wouldn't know the exact how many people it held. It was standing room only. There was a you came in the door. There was a big like standing room area. The stage is off. The Saxon was there. I keep thinking of bands as we do it.
Quite a
The
few big
stage
ones that
was
came
off
through.
to the one side, yeah, and there was an upstairs. Like you had to be 21 to get up there, where you could BYOB and bring
Yeah.
alcohol. I'd have to ask Sam Eunice, who managed one of the bands we're going to talk about. Would probably be able to tell me what the capacity of the place was. But anyway, so the point is, a lot of bands played the music hall. Um, they would come through town like
Yeah.
Malice played the airport music. We talked about that
Yes, we
show
did.
that I missed, like in the episode of concerts that we missed. And bands would come there and play, and um, usually it was an open a local was
Hmm.
opening the show. Sometimes you had like it started like as the years went on, there were more like package kind of things. Like you had uh White Line coming through with now Skid Row didn't have their first album out yet at the time. Um but you'd have more of that kind of thing, a couple bands together with maybe a local band first. But usually, honestly, usually there was only two bands on the bill. It was usually the opener and then the headliner, and it was
Right.
usually a local band. So we had
Right.
bands. We'll talk. This is going to be our regular feature on the show. So we had bands like we had Washed, we had Tease.
Sure.
Tease actually could headline that place. They were real big in that area. Destroyer. There was a band called Kraken. There was a thrash band called Leviathan. Vicious Bareka, who put a record out on I don't know the label, but they put an indie record out
Okay.
back in the 80s. And I saw them up for Saxon. I was like Kraken. That was the Lehigh Valley Kraken. I was not the Canadian one. Vicious Bareka, Ominous, um, Riff Raff. There all kind of bands.
Yeah.
So you see like Greg How too. Greg Howe had a band called How To with his brother Al,
Okay.
um, and they would open some shows too. Like a lot of really good local bands in the area. I mean, this is what we did in high school, man. I mean, you went to shows, so
Sure.
you'd go and you'd get to know the music of some of these bands just because you'd see them fairly often. And one that I saw a ton was a band called Washed. The first time I saw them was my buddy has convinced me to go see um was it I see I think it was Kicks.
Okay.
Um because I did see them also open for TT Quick. I saw them open for a bunch of bands. Zebra I saw them open for, but the first time I saw them, I'm pretty sure it was Kicks.
Okay.
Um and at the time they had like the band was formed in 86. The lineup was they had a singer, guitar player named JJ Bellew, drummers Phil Marr, bassist named John Roebuck, and actually trivia time, his brother um, is actually Daniel Roebuck, who's an actually character actor, who's been in a bunch of movies.
Huh.
So and then they had a guy named Mike Whitmore that like actually sang lead. When I first saw them, it was Mike playing guitar and singing lead, and JJ played lead guitar, and then Phil was on drums and John was on bass, and um, that like they gave these out like they had them at the show. This is the it's called I Need an Angel. This demo, I still have it from the show. It's kind of like they were kind of like in the vein of like overall like across the years, like kind of like in that same vein as like Dawkins, Y&T,
Hmm.
um, Rat,
Sure.
um, they fit in with that whole they fit in with everything going on in the 80s. They weren't as bluesy as like Cinderella or but there was some stuff they did that had a JJ could play blues guitar like crazy too.
Right,
So
right.
um there was some like, just the dirty looks, like stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
that's the genre they fit in. They get called hair metal now. I
Yeah.
remember when we saw them the first time, like for whatever reason, the Triumph stuck in my head. Just it was like just good melodic hard rock. This tape is a little bit more on the AOR
Hmm.
kind of side. Mike Whitmore doesn't have like he has like a smooth kind of voice. It's not like a real hard rocking kind of thing he had going on here. It's a cool. I Need an Angel was one they used to play a lot
Hmm.
when we saw them live. Like I think the rest of these songs quickly got dropped out of the set once
Yeah.
they moved on. Um, the next time I saw them, the lineup had changed. It was JJ Bellew now was singing and playing lead. He was the main songwriter in the band. Great stage presence, this guy.
Hmm.
And then Phil on drums and John on bass. And they brought in a guy named Danny Joe Brown on not from Molly Hatchet, but Danny Joe Brown on second guitar and vocals. And actually, one of the times I saw him, like they moved Danny to the middle to do the leads. Like JJ, I don't know what if it was just something they were trying or if JJ didn't want to sing lead because I know at some point around '89, I guess they tried to get Robert Mason to
Okay.
sing for them. Robert sang for a local cover band called Gandalf
Okay.
in the Lehigh Valley. That's where he got his start before he went on to bigger and better things out and like the Lynch Mob and
Yeah.
singing backup, for Ozzy and things the things that he's done over the years. But I guess I don't know what honestly, like nothing, not to slight Robert Mason, but JJ Bellew had a great singing voice, melodic. He could get, he could put some edge on it when he wanted to, like powerful
Hmm.
and could play lead great. So anyways, the next time I saw him, um, they heavied up a little bit, like from where they were with. I mean, they went from this, which was cool, but then JJ had a more powerful voice than Mike, and they this again. They just brought. You didn't buy these. They had like
They
a
just
box
tossed
of
them.
these, and they come out and just were like handing them out from the stage. And these are like they show up on Discogs every now and then. I mean, um they're pricey
Yeah, I
now.
bet.
I still have this, man. I like um I had I had one of those standalone CD burners at one time, and I had it
Yeah.
hooked into my stereo, and I like burnt. I made like I
Made a
have all
CD
this
of
stuff
it. Yeah.
digitized so that I don't like. I'm sure the cassettes still play, but I mean I played the shit out of this cassette. This is like an EP. Really, here's what's funny about it too. I mean, they must have started recording it with Mike, because on the inside there's like you probably won't be able to see it here, but like on the you can't really see it, but up here at the top, this is actually a sticker, a
Oh,
layover
so they had to put it
on
over
the
with the
top here.
updated.
So you like it's got like I'm not going to peel it off, but you could definitely tell where like someone else was listed,
Yeah.
um, that there's a different lineup and stuff. So, but yeah, the songs on here are they had this intro called Wood. It was just like this guitar, just
Yeah.
this loud like thing. It was kind of like a typical like, just them hitting like power chords and stuff. The drums are bashing and
Yeah.
just something they would use at the beginning of the show before they went into the set proper. Then a song called Can You Rock, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Then a song called Talk But Never Listen. There were a real fast one on here called Queen. Um, and they had a song called Back It Up that they used
Yeah.
to play quite a bit. That was one of those ones like, you know, back it up or shut up kind of thing. Those are the lyrics to the song, back it up. And man, they were just a fun band live. They did there were like a couple spots in the set where they didn't go over the top with this, but they would have a couple spots in the set where there'd be like a synchronized move or whatever, but mostly it was just four dudes. Like they didn't have um much of an image beyond the long hair
Yeah.
and jeans and like t-shirts and stuff. They didn't go for the glam. They weren't
Yeah.
glam dudes or anything like that. Like they dressed like, it didn't look like they just stepped out of the crowd or stepped off the street. Like um, they looked like they belonged on the stage, but they didn't have like they kind of like, it was kind of like, again, like a Triumph Zebra, um, Tangier, like kind of this thing where they
Yeah.
didn't have, it wasn't like Motley Crue or
It was all
Rat, like, or
scarves and frilly shit and
yeah,
pink
all that
and
kind of stuff. It was
yeah.
like they dressed rock, but they
Yeah.
didn't like have, they weren't like an image conscious band. It was all
Right.
about the music with them. Very energetic show, great musicians. And they were steadily like, they built a following. I mean,
Hmm.
um, Sam um, managed them. There's a guy named Pat Lanover that did the booking at the Airport Music Hall. I think he actually went on, from what I understand, is working for Live Nation. Um, but like these bands would help the draw,
Yeah.
and they put them on opening for bands, and they got bigger, and they were playing like in the area. Like Washed would play like not only the Lehigh Valley, obviously, but they're playing Philly. They'd go up to New
Hmm.
York. They were trading shows with like, they would come out to West Virginia and Ohio and play with Screamer, Jim Dofka's band. They'd go up to Boston. There was a band called Shout
Okay.
that they actually came down and played it. Like they would like trade shows
Hmm.
and come down. They played at Hammerjacks in Baltimore. They played out in York, Pennsylvania, and Reading, like
They
all in
did the
the area.
circuit. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're like regionally kind of band. Yeah, they started building their name. I mean, it got to like they were becoming like, they were like a draw, man. I mean, my buddies and I, if they were opening for someone, it gave us extra incentive
To go.
to
Yeah.
go. And they would have for sure, there was at least one show we went to, and I want to say it was a New Year's Eve thing, like that at the music hall. It was like Wash, Destroyer, and How To, like all in the same nights.
That's awesome.
Um, all local at the Airport Music Hall. And it was cool. I mean, because they were, these guys were like, to me, these guys were rock stars too. I mean, because I love these songs, and the
Yeah.
band was so much fun live, and we would go up, we'd be able to get up close, and I didn't know any of them personally. I was just a kid, but not that they were that much older at that point. But when you're a kid and they're adults, and
Yeah.
even if they're in their early 20s and you're 16 or 17, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
world of difference, like in
It
terms of.
is. Especially at that
And
age. Yeah.
yeah, and JJ worked at a Stephen Nicholas Music, I think it was, in Whitehall. I might be getting that. If Stephen Nicholas, I think Stephen Nicholas was in Whitehall. There was one in Jersey across the border. Anyway, there's one in Whitehall that he worked at. I remember talking to him there. Like I would go in with my buddy who was a guitar player, and he'd be working there. I'd get all like tongue tied and stuff trying to talk to the guy. And that's what he was like talking about, like trying to get a different, that they had a new singer. And I'm like, what are you? Remember thinking to myself, you're a great singer. Like, why would
Yeah.
you want someone else? Danny was a good singer too, but JJ was like, I don't know. I don't know if he was insecure about his voice or just didn't want to sing, but or preferred to like, and or just did it because. But he was great. I'm trying to find a comparison for his voice, but it's in the vein of like it's melodic, but like a Dave Meniketti or
Okay.
like Hagar or um not, he doesn't sound like those guys. I'm just saying like it's rock. He has a good rock voice.
Yeah.
He had a good bit of range, but he wasn't like um I can't really describe him, like Robert Mason a little bit, like in that
Okay.
category of
Sure.
type of singers. Um okay, so those are those first two tapes. And then so they were getting big locally, and then they did a song called Alone. They did this ballad that it won, like there was like a local competition
Hmm.
with songs, and they did the song Alone. This is around 88 or 89.
Okay.
WZZO, the big radio station in the Allentown area, like had this contest, and it was I think that they had judges from like different places in the industry, or
Hmm.
radio stations in the area or whatever. But so it was like a local hit.
Right.
kind of for them. And again, like it just like you'd see that more and more people like knew their stuff when you go see them live. I mean, there was a show in Allentown, this big field in Allentown. They had a they brought in like a flat. It was weird. It was like a flatbed, this all day thing. Like and
Yeah.
like Washed was Tangier was the headliner, but Washed was on right before them, and it
Okay.
might as well have been a Washed show. I mean, a ton of people were there's
Yeah.
video of them playing. There's a couple songs that there's actually a video out there on YouTube. I know one of the songs is this ballad they had called Steel, which is more like an Alone Again type of power ballad. Like it's actually like it's some heavy guitar chords. Alone was more
Sure.
like a ballad, like a bad English
Mm-hmm.
kind of like ballad. Like it was a little bit softer.
Okay.
But man, they were just so good live. And but for whatever reason, like they just I know they had interest from around after Alone, they've been getting interest from labels. I guess Atco was looking at them and Geffen, Warner Brothers, Elektra. But I think the problem is by the time it got around to where the labels would have signed them, we're at the point where grunge is starting to come in.
Yeah.
So they just the timing was just
Yeah.
bad for them. Bands from the area that did get signed before them were like no one from the Valley really, except for the band I'm gonna come to on my next pick. But
Mm-hmm.
Cinderella got signed out of
Right.
Philly.
Yeah.
Um, and those are the only like real hard rock bands I can think from the area that Wrathchild was out of the middle of this, Reading area, I believe, and they became Wrathchild America, but that was a
Right.
little bit later. But they never like they got so far, like on the local level, they started getting some national notice, but it was like
Too little, too late kind
it
of
was the
thing.
timing
Yeah.
was bad. But before they had checked out, there was this, and actually, I'm I'm surprised I even have this still. I didn't. I had left the area, and my buddy Terry played in a cover band with John Roebuck, who was the bassist in Washed.
Mhm.
Now, John was replaced by a dude named Rick Statkus, who also does recording and engineering
Mhm.
in the area. The last time I saw them must have been the summer of '90, and Rick was playing bass for them. This was not out yet at the time. This is like a full length. It's got a weird cover, man. I don't get that, but I don't know that this is actually sold anywhere. Like again, it might have been like a
Just a
something that
toss
they
out at a show
they
kind
gave
of.
out or
Yeah.
but the way I got this is Terry got this through John and got one for me. Actually, two of them. Um, and I gave one to Gary from Heavy Metal Museum.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I traded with them because I had a spare of it.
Gary Schaefer.
A sealed one actually. Like this one I've played often. But again, like just some great like straight up hard rock. In the
Sure.
vein of what was popular, except it wasn't as like I Need an Angel's on here again.
Hmm. And that was
Best
around
part of it.
1990, you said?
This one's around. The material looks like it was recorded, like written. These are songs that were. The copyright here says 87, 88, 89,
Okay.
91.
Okay. I
So
gotcha.
it must be stuff that they wrote.
Yeah.
Some of it was recorded earlier. Some of it's a repeat, and some of it's like I Need an Angel's a repeat. Um, Dream Alone's kind of got a bluesy little vibe to it. Steel is a great power ballad. Slipping Out the Back Door, typical like kind of like bluesed up hard rocker about being the man on the side kind of thing. Turn It Around. Guilty, another like Y&T
Sure.
kind of like more metallic kind of thing. Alone is on here. Armed and Dangerous again. They get kind of like the band, not White Lion, but there was a band called Lion.
Sure.
Um,
I remember that
that was
band.
like that melodic
Yeah.
metal
Yep.
kind of thing. May I is like a little instrumental. Lost Angels, another like kind of speedy, or more up tempo, like just melodic metal song. And Not the Time was like a moody kind of ballad. I mean,
Hmm.
this is killer. And the shame of all this is, so the band breaks up, and I didn't live in the valley, so I didn't know these dudes or how busy they were with other bands. I know Danny went on to join a band. He was in a band called Iron Bottom Sound that did a couple albums. I think Phil has been in a lot of bands in the area. John moved to the Carolinas. He's down there, plays in bands down there. But JJ kind of like faded really from the scene. I played with a woman named Sarah Ayers, like playing blues.
Hmm.
Um, but he really kind of like dipped. And I know over the year there was one point like Sam had started posting stuff like trying to like hype up like if that like there might be a reunion of some sort on the in the offing. And yeah, I mean it never came to be. This there was talk of getting this stuff released on CD, but they never did that. And then I know there's a couple small labels like Heaven and Hell
Hmm.
and Dive Bomb both actually tried to get um, JJ to release the stuff, and I think Heaven and Hell got close,
Yeah.
and then JJ they thought they were getting close on it, and then JJ kind of like just ghosted them.
Really?
I guess so. This stuff like never, even though there was like a, there would have been a good. There, I know there's actually demand for this stuff. There are people out there like that know
Scouring the earth for those
yeah,
little bands that, you know,
who know who Washed is that like would have loved to have that on
sure.
CD. And those are both two really like reputable, like good labels. Do a great job with their reissues.
Hmm.
And I might have mixed. I hope I didn't mix them up anyway with who almost had them. But anyway, the point is, I guess they could never get JJ to agree to put the stuff out. And then, like, sadly, JJ passed away in June of
Uh,
last year. So any chance of there being um, this stuff getting issued, or because I think that again, JJ was the main writer. He would have owned the rights to this stuff.
hmm.
And as far as like any reunions and stuff, that unfortunately would have passed with him.
Yeah,
And it's a shame. I mean, they were killer. They definitely should have gotten. So they had the talent, they had the songs, they had the live, they had the presence and the energy. Um, they would have fit well on bills with any number of bands
yeah,
that toured at the time. I could have seen them opening for. I could have seen them on the road like the Scorpions or Whitesnake or
sure.
Skid Row or Kiss or those kind of bands.
Their sound was
You
that
know,
accessible. They could fit in with pretty much anybody.
yeah, I mean they,
Yeah.
you weren't gonna see them on a bill with Slayer anytime
Right.
soon, but they were like a hard hitting band, and they could have played with any number of like melodic metal hard rock
Sure.
bands. Um, I think they had enough heavier material. Say they could have like opened for like Priest
Yeah,
at in the 80s. So I don't know. They were great. I'll send some pictures over to you too, and we can edit them in.
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, great band. If you can find, if you, man, especially I guess if you're in the valley, like don't like forget to like look through tape bins or something because you never know when this stuff's gonna
Right.
show up.
Yep.
But like, yeah, this is I Need an Angel EP, and then you got this blue tape like Can You Rock, great demo, and then this one is just they always call this blue tape because it is like literally like it's
It's a blue tape.
blue tape, but this is a full length.
Yeah.
All of these are great, um, and it would have been great to have all of this on CD or even better on vinyl.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I wish there's some video out there. There's a little bit of that like them playing in Allentown at that all dayer thing. And then there's a couple things from inside, but like the one video at the airport music hall is just it's JJ doing it's kind of him. It might have been him opening for someone by himself, and it's just him. He's playing "Wish You Were Here,"
Oh,
um,
okay.
which is still cool. I mean, we saw them live one time, and someone just yelled out for them to play Rush,
Yeah.
and they busted into soliloquy from the part of 2112 like
Yeah.
and just like did it on the spot. And that show actually, like, I wish like that I could get a hold of the video of this because my they played Cold Gin
Oh man.
and as like an encore, and they like had people come up on stage. And Josh and I, who were in a band together, we're like 18 and 17 years old, and like
You guys
they
got
like
up
pulled
there?
us, let us come up on stage, and we're at a microphone like singing backup. So I would howl
That's
to
awesome.
see it. Um, but yeah, I mean, they were just such a good band. They really like were really inspirational to me and wanting to play as much as any other band that I'd seen.
Yeah.
They were like the kings of the for me the kings of the local. I really like looked up to this band. I was lucky to see them about. I probably saw them like 9 or 10 times
Wow. Sure.
over the years, which actually in the grand scheme of things isn't as much as it could have been if I were had been older and been able to get into
Oh
clubs
yeah,
and stuff. I would
definitely.
have gone to see these guys any number of times. Anytime I could get to see them, I would. And they really only played. They didn't do a ton of all ages stuff. Like where there was a place called DJ Bananas that did all ages shows on Sundays.
Hmm.
And Wash wasn't really all about that. Like they didn't do that kind of thing. It was mostly like if you're going to see them at an all ages thing, it was going to be they were opening
Yeah.
for a bigger band like
Right.
Zebra or
Sure.
White Lion or something like that. TT Quick.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, that's my first one. Killer band, Washed. Um, yeah, and God rest JJ Belew's soul because he was an amazing talent. It's a loss, man. He
Yeah.
was in his early 60s, and I think it's a shame that he wasn't. It's a shame for any of the guys that they didn't get the due that I think they deserve.
Yeah.
But like he just was a special talent, I think, and it's just a shame that you know that happened the way that it did. So
Yeah. It's a good pick. I'm definitely going to look into those. I think I know a lot of bands and even some of the minor ones and locals in other areas, but that's a new one to me. So
I think I have these
that
ripped
sounds
as
like
MP3s. I'll send them to you.
that sounds good. All right. All right. Like Kiss was the gateway that got me into music, at a young age, probably 6, 7. And then by the time I kind of broke away from that and really started exploring everything, I was really into music probably by, 12, 13. And then by the time I got into, right around, 14, 15, my buddies and I kind of started, our first little basement band and everything. And, thrash was breaking. But I'm from Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is just south of Milwaukee. And Kenosha has a very rich music history and had a very rich music scene as a kid when I was growing up. The ice arena here was, kind of like the big spot for the bigger touring bands. One of the biggest shows that we ever saw was, I mean, I was too young, I wasn't there, but, in 75, we had Kiss, Rush, and Thin Lizzy play. But it was, nothing to have REO Speedwagon and Styx, Ted Nugent, they were all coming through Kenosha. Even, Richie Valens and Big Bopper Buddy Holly played Kenosha 3 nights before the plane crash.
Damn.
Yeah, so we very very rich musical history. So by the time that I was starting to play and with my friends and everything, and uh, Kenosha has had a huge punk scene going. Charming Deviants and Smashed Infants, 1096, U.S. Distress. I mean, it was a buffet of different punk bands. What was really cool is you could go see bands literally every weekend because there was constantly Battle of the Bands at the local Eagles
Hmm.
club. None of us could drive, so thankfully we had awesome parents that would drive us down there, drop us off at 3 in the afternoon, and we would usually walk back to one of our friends who was closest to the Eagles club. But you could sit in there all day and just watch band after band after band. And it was the greatest thing in the whole world. I got like such really good memories of all of that. But outside of the punk, which we loved it, we loved the punk scene. I still love a lot of punk, but we were, the metal was running through our veins. And, we had some really good metal bands, through here. We had, Negative 13 was around, and Angel Landing, and Villain, and DC Rocks. And some of those bands were kind of half cover, half original. But
Hmm.
then we had a couple of like big hitters that we thought, we were constantly going to see these guys. And luckily they did play a lot of the all ages shows. And or they would be like the headliner for a battle of the bands just to keep, the draw going.
Yeah, people coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we had a record store that was downtown that was literally just, I mean, a 10-minute walk from the venue, from the Eagles Club where we would go see all these, called Grand Central Records and Tapes. And it was literally the hub. I mean, if you needed to know who was playing, or it was like the walk-in magazine. You would find everything you needed to. And the store owners were Ronald, we call him Ronnie Vallejo, and his brother Lenny, and they owned Grand Central Records and Tape. Well, Ronnie was the guitar player for this band called Screamer.
Yes.
And this album, Target Earth, you're probably familiar with this one, Butch.
Yeah. Good record.
Um, oh man. Well, we loved Ronnie. We absolutely loved him. And he was kind of integral in getting some of the bigger bands, the metal bands that come through. King Diamond and Megadeth on King's first tour for Fatal Portrait was Megadeth's first tour. Nuclear Assault came through. We had D. Snyder's Black Widow play in Kenosha. We had a lot of good, really good stuff. But Screamer, we man, we worshiped this band. We thought they were like awesome. At least I did. We always enjoyed going to see them. But they did their very best. You know, see back a little bit to really put on a big production. And actually, the other band I'm going to talk about in a little while too, they did too. But Screamer were like they did like the staging and everything. And Ronnie was a big
Hmm.
Kiss fan. And at one point, they had these big ramps that kind of flanked the drums and slightly reminiscent of what like the Dynasty stage looked like. So they would build it to whatever specs they could get away with at the places that they played. And this is very much like a progressive album, but I mean, if I'm gonna say one band that's gonna kind of take care of it for you, it's Queensryche. And
Yep.
Ronnie was major Queensryche fan, and that kind of bled through in the music. And I can remember walking in, I was still in high school, and I took off at lunch, and I hadn't gotten Operation Mindcrime yet, so I hauled ass down to Grand Central to get that, and Ronnie's in there, and he's got the store speakers just cranked, and he's listening to Operation Mindcrime, and he's like singing it and acting the whole thing out, and I'll always have that memory of Ronnie in there. So anyway, Screamer started making some pretty big waves, and they spread out, and they played the surrounding areas a little bit. And if I'm correct in my history here, and I might not be, they were in the first wave of signings to New Renaissance Records, which was formed from Ann Boland from Hellion.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of stories about how that label handled things. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate.
Not
Uh,
well, according to the guys in Dream Death.
Another New Renaissance band.
Yeah.
So, um, the promotion just wasn't there, was lacking. There was a lot of hopes and dreams that this was going to be at least a stepping stone to bigger, better things. And we were like, oh man, we've got them. They're our hometown heroes, man. They're going to make good. And as fast as we thought things were going to happen, things fizzled out too. And then there was lineup changes and things happened, and just like you were saying, you don't really know what it was that made things sort of fade away. They kept it up a little bit around Kenosha for a while with different lineup changes. And then they kind of went away for a while. And Ronnie just kept working the store. We'd go hang out and talk to Ronnie all the time. And then back in, I'd say around 10, and somebody will chime in for me for sure. Screamer kind of got back together, and they did put out a new album and did a couple of local shows. So we thought, oh, okay, man, maybe things are gonna step back up, but never really did. But in the meantime, Ronnie was really, really creative, and he was part of the Electric Hellfire Club, which was kind of a branch off from My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult.
Hmm.
Did that for their very first album, Burn Baby Burn. Stepped away from that. Then he created what was called Ronnie Vallejo's New Mafia, which was going to be a little bit more of a theatrical kind of deal. Never really panned out. And then Ronnie did something called Star Power that was pretty interesting. And he was big Kiss fan, so we can all see where that one came from. Did a kind of a one and done show with that, and just kept creative over the years. I kept in touch with him off and on here and there, but kind of like JJ, unfortunately, we lost Ronnie at the very end of last year, which kind of, it hits home when it's somebody that you knew,
Hmm.
somebody you admired, you looked up to, really enjoyed their musical output. And it's a part of your, teenage years, you're growing up, your just, formation of what you became. That kind of hits hard. So that was a big loss for a lot of people in our area. So, but yeah, Screamer. It's absolutely worth checking out, especially if you're like, you're metal a little more on the progressive side. If you're like Queensryche, great stuff. Really, really good stuff. So,
Yeah, that's a really good record, man.
yeah, love that record. Still
For
play
sure.
it quite a bit.